There are moments in life when God allows your heart to break in ways you never expected. Not because he wants to hurt you, but because he's about to reveal something you could never have learned through comfort. Have you ever wondered why the person you prayed for, the person you trusted, the person you believed was the one, ended up becoming your deepest wound? What if I told you that the heartbreak you're trying so hard to forget is the very chapter God will one day use to transform your entire story? What if the love that almost destroyed you was actually the love that God used to rebuild you? Before the right person enters your life, God often lets the wrong one arrive first, not as a curse, but as a classroom, a place where your soul is stretched, tested, and refined. A place where illusions die and truth is born. So before you rush past the pain, pause. Because what you're about to discover is this: every tear, every disappointment, every unanswered prayer was not abandonment. It was alignment, and the love that broke you was never the ending. It was the beginning of the person God is shaping you to become. There are seasons in life when God allows your heart to be shattered, not to punish you, but to awaken something inside you that could never be touched by comfort. Sometimes he lets you love the wrong person first, not because he delights in your pain, but because he knows that certain truths can only be born through breaking. You may remember the moment when someone entered your life and everything inside you whispered, "This must be the one." You prayed about them, thanked God for them, and for a time your world felt brighter, as if heaven itself had breathed on your story. You loved with sincerity, with purity, with the belief that this love was a gift from God. But then something cracked. Promises faded, conversations changed, and the person who once felt God sent became the source of your deepest ache. You found yourself holding the pieces of your own heart, asking God why he allowed something so painful to happen. There is a kind of pain that goes deeper than tears, the pain of loving someone who was never meant to stay, the pain that settles not only in your emotions but in your spirit. You replayed moments again and again, searching for where it went wrong, questioning what you could have done differently. And through all of it, heaven felt painfully silent. But silence is not the same as absence. Sometimes God's silence is the classroom where he teaches you the lessons that shape your destiny. Because here is the truth. God often allows you to love the wrong person first, not to destroy you, but to develop you. He uses heartbreak, confusion, and loneliness as chisels that carve character, endurance, and discernment into your soul. The wrong person becomes the unexpected teacher who shows you what love is not, so that you will one day recognize what love truly is. It is not punishment, it is preparation. It is God reshaping your heart so it can hold a love that reflects his own. One day, when you look back, you will realize that the relationship that almost broke you was the one that brought you closest to God. What once felt like rejection becomes holy redirection. Every tear becomes water for the seeds God planted in the soil of your spirit. That pain you wished you could erase becomes the very foundation upon which your future is built. God needed to awaken your heart to what love truly is. Sometimes the first person you love is not the one who gives you joy, but the one who opens your heart through heartbreak. Before them, you may have believed love was simply connection or butterflies, but through them, you discovered that real love, God's love, is patient, selfless, sacrificial, and enduring. You do not truly understand 1 Corinthians 13 until you have walked through disappointment. You do not learn patience until your love is tested. You do not learn kindness until you have been hurt and still choose compassion. The wrong person, without knowing it, teaches you what real love should look like by showing you what it is not. Through unmet expectations and one-sided effort, you begin to recognize the contrast between human love and divine love. Conditional versus unconditional, unstable versus steady, draining versus restoring. God needed you to feel the weight of love, to understand that love outside his will can exhaust you, but love within his purpose fills you with peace. He needed you to learn the difference between intensity and intimacy, between chemistry and covenant. And it all began with a pain that revealed the sacred longing inside your heart for a love rooted in Christ. God also needed to reveal what was broken within you. Sometimes the wrong relationship isn't about the other person. It is about the mirror they hold up to your soul. They stir buried things, insecurities, fears, pride, control, codependency. Through them, God exposes the wounds you have long ignored. Psalm 139 says, "Search me, O God." But when God truly searches your heart, he reveals not only what is right, but what is wounded. Maybe you saw how easily you gave up your boundaries just to be accepted. Maybe you realized how deeply you feared being alone. Maybe you discovered that your worth had been tied to someone's attention instead of God's affirmation. The wrong person reveals the places that still need healing. And though it hurts, that revelation becomes the turning point of your spiritual restoration. God uses heartbreak like holy surgery, cutting deep enough to expose what must be healed so that true love can one day thrive. Healing has to come first. Before God can unite you with the right person, he must make you whole enough to recognize them. Wholeness attracts wholeness. So when you think of the one who hurt you, do not only see the pain they caused, see the truth they revealed. They awakened insecurities you carried from childhood. They forced you to face fears of abandonment or rejection. They stirred wounds God had been waiting to heal. The heartbreak was never meant to crush you, it was meant to cleanse you. It stripped away illusions, peeled back layers of self-deception, and drew you closer to God, the one whose love never fails. And though the wrong person may have left your life, the right lessons remain, shaping you into someone who loves with wisdom, strength, and grace. There comes a moment in every believer's life when God must teach you the painful difference between temporary emotion and eternal purpose, and he often uses the wrong person as the vessel for that lesson. There is a kind of love that strikes like lightning, fast, bright, intoxicating, so overwhelming that it feels predestined, almost sacred, as if it were written in the heavens before time began, and yet, as quickly as it ignites, it burns out, leaving behind nothing but smoke and quiet ashes. In that silence, when your heart finally stops chasing the echo of what once felt magical, you begin to realize something profound. Not everything that feels right is rooted in God's will. The human heart is powerful, but Scripture warns us in Jeremiah 17:9 that it is also dangerously deceptive. We confuse intensity with destiny, chemistry with covenant, emotion with purpose. The wrong person can make you feel alive in a way that blinds you to truth, and the connection you felt may have been real, but real does not always mean righteous. God allows these emotional storms to crash through your life so you can finally understand that passion without purpose fades, but love that is aligned with him endures. You may have thought it was love because it filled the empty spaces inside you, but often what fills you does not heal you. God wanted you to learn the sacred difference between the kind of love that stirs your emotions and the kind that strengthens your spirit. Emotions fade, purpose remains. And purpose is how you recognize what is truly from him. In every heartbreak, God was quietly showing you the cost of following your feelings instead of his voice. He whispered through the cracks in your heart, "I know this feels right now, but I see where it leads." His no was never cruelty, it was mercy. He refused to let you build your future on something that would collapse beneath you. True love, the kind he ordains, is never built on adrenaline. It is anchored in peace, in trust, in two souls pursuing his presence together. It does not drain or confuse you, it steadies you. It does not fade as time passes, it grows deeper, richer, holier. And so God used the wrong person as your training ground for discernment, refining your heart so you would finally understand the difference between what is emotional and what is eternal. If your heart once mistook excitement for love, do not be ashamed. You are wiser now. God did not let you lose, he let you learn. And one day when real love comes, you will not just fall into it. You will recognize it as his God also needed to teach you obedience through pain, one of the most difficult lessons in the spiritual life. Sometimes he asks you to let go of someone you love, not because they were wicked, but because they were not meant for your destiny. Releasing someone your heart still longs for is one of the truest tests of faith. In Genesis 22, Abraham was asked to sacrifice Isaac, the very son of promise. It made no sense. It felt unfair, unreasonable, even cruel. And yet Abraham obeyed, and in that obedience, God revealed his provision. That same spiritual reality applies to your relationships. Sometimes God allows heartbreak to expose whether you love him enough to trust his plan above your own desires. His no is not punishment. It is protection. Perhaps that relationship would have pulled you off course, dimmed your faith, or tied you to someone who refused to grow. You could not see it then, but God saw everything. Painful obedience purifies your faith. It teaches you that peace matters more than passion, that purpose matters more than preference. You stop begging for what is not meant to be and begin praying for the strength to accept God's best. It is easy to say, "Lord, I trust you," until he asks you to walk away from something you prayed for. That is when trust becomes real. Every tear you cried was watering the soil of surrender, softening your heart so God could reshape it. Faith is not proven in waiting alone. It is proven in letting go. And when you finally release what he asked you to, a strange thing happens. Freedom. The God who took something from your hands will place something greater into them in his time. Something lasting, something holy, something divine. Obedience hurts, but it heals. It transforms your love story from one written by your desires to one written by his hand. And when you one day stand beside the person God intended for your life, you will finally understand why he asked you to walk away from what you once thought was forever. Because what God gives after obedience is never a loss. It is always redemption. God then needed you to learn forgiveness and grace, lessons that cut even deeper. It is one thing to love someone. It is another to forgive the person who broke you. Forgiveness feels impossible when all you want is justice, or at least an explanation. But sometimes the only closure you will ever receive is the peace God gives you when you release the burden. Forgiveness does not say their actions were acceptable. It says you refuse to carry the poison any longer. Heartbreak tests the depth of your grace because love that cannot forgive is love still in need of growth. Through betrayal and disappointment, God teaches you to forgive the way he forgives, fully, freely, without conditions. It is the kind of forgiveness that does not wait for an apology. It echoes the words of Christ on the cross. "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." When Jesus spoke those words, he was not excusing sin. He was releasing himself from its weight. In your heartbreak, God invites you to reflect that same heart. Forgiveness releases you. Bitterness binds you. It keeps you tied to a moment God is trying to lead you beyond. Forgiving someone does not mean they return to your life. It means you place them in God's hands, allowing him to deal with them his way. When forgiveness enters your heart, healing begins. Your spirit softens. Your faith deepens. You begin to see that the person who hurt you was also broken, also lost, also learning in their own imperfect way. You stop seeing them as your enemy and begin seeing them as another soul in need of mercy. And in forgiving them, you also learn to forgive yourself for missing the red flags, for hoping too much, for staying too long. God never condemned you for loving. He only wanted you to learn from it. Every wrong person, every tear, every restless night was shaping you into someone more compassionate, more discerning, more Christ-like. So when you look back, do not see yourself as a victim of love gone wrong. See yourself as a vessel purified by God through pain, prepared for a love that is wiser, deeper, and rooted in him alone. You forgave not to erase the past, but to make room for the future, because forgiveness is the quiet miracle that clears the clutter of yesterday so the blessings of tomorrow can finally breathe. When the right person comes, your heart will be lighter, cleaner, free from the weight of what once wounded you. That is the hidden work of forgiveness. It prepares you not just for a love that feels good, but for a love that glorifies God. And to reach that place, God needed you to understand the mystery of waiting and the discipline of trust. One of the hardest seasons in any believer's life is the waiting season, that sacred stretch of silence after heartbreak, where everything feels confusing and nothing seems to move. You wonder if love will ever find you again, if you misheard God, if the best parts of your story are already behind you. Yet it is in that stillness, when all familiar voices fade, that God begins his deepest work. He gathers the shattered pieces of your heart and starts rebuilding them with divine precision. He takes what was restless inside you and teaches it how to rest in him alone. Waiting is never punishment. It is preparation. God ends the wrong relationship not to leave you empty, but to make room for something infinitely better. And during that in-between space, He is not asking for half of your trust. He is asking for all of it. Isaiah 40:31 promises that they who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles, reminding you that waiting rooted in faith becomes the place where spiritual strength is born. When you wait on God, your understanding of love changes. You stop running after what looks good and begin praying for what is godly. You stop searching for someone who fits your list and start longing for someone who fits your purpose. The wrong person may have made you impatient, desperate to fill the ache of loneliness, but God used that impatience to reveal how deeply you still needed to trust His timing. Look at Ruth. She never chased Boaz. She stayed faithful in the field God placed her in, and while she was working, God aligned their paths in perfect timing. The same God who wrote Ruth's story is writing yours. He has not forgotten you. He has not ignored your prayers. He is preparing you and preparing the one meant for you in ways you cannot yet see. Waiting refines you. It teaches patience, sharpens discernment, and strengthens faith. It clears the noise so you can hear God's voice more clearly. It shifts your prayer life from, "Lord, give me someone," to, "Lord, make me ready." Because sometimes the only reason the right person hasn't arrived yet is because God is still shaping you into the person capable of keeping them. So if you are in the waiting season now, do not rush. Do not settle. Do not let loneliness tempt you back to what God already rescued you from. Trust that His delays are never denials. Trust that He is working behind the scenes in ways you could never orchestrate on your own. When the right person finally appears, it will feel effortless. Not because love is easy, but because it is aligned with heaven. You will not have to chase, convince, or compromise to keep them. There will be peace where there used to be panic, clarity where there used to be confusion. And in that moment you will realize the waiting was not wasted. It was sacred. God was not withholding love from you. He was teaching you how to recognize the kind that lasts forever. Then comes the final lesson. God needed to prepare you for the right person, His way, not yours. After all the heartbreak, all the late-night tears, and all the agonizing questions, something begins to shift. You start to realize that none of it was random. Every wrong person, every unanswered prayer, every closed door was part of the preparation. We all have our own ideas about love. We create mental images of the kind of person we want. We build timelines, expectations, romantic narratives, and then we present them to God, subconsciously asking Him to follow our plan. But in His mercy, He refuses. God loves you too much to let you settle for a relationship built on your imagination rather than His intention. So He dismantles every version of love you created without Him. He removes the relationships that were built on dependency instead of destiny. He tears down the fantasies that would have limited your calling. He refines you, your patience, your humility, your faith, your discernment. Because the person He prepares for you is not just someone you will love. It is someone you will build the kingdom with. That kind of relationship requires spiritual maturity. It requires two hearts aligned with heaven, not with emotion. Look at Joseph. Before he ever stood in the palace, he was betrayed, abandoned, and forgotten. But every setback was a setup. Every disappointment was God rearranging the path toward destiny. The same is true for you. Every relationship that broke, every person who left, every heartbreak that brought you to your knees, it all pushed you closer to the person who fits, not just your heart, but your calling. The wrong person taught you what you don't want. But more importantly, they taught you who you are. You learned that peace is worth more than passion, that presence matters more than promises, that love is not about possession but partnership. You learned that God's timing is more trustworthy than your own. And when your heart finally absorbs these truths, you do not just become ready to meet the right person. You become ready to recognize them. The right one will not come wrapped in chaos or confusion. They will not make you question your worth or your walk with God. They will feel like an answered prayer, not because they are perfect, but because they point you back to God. You will see his fingerprints in the way they love you, the way they pray with you, the way they protect your peace. And when that day finally arrives, you will understand why God said no to everyone who came before. Because if he had given you what you thought you wanted, you would have missed what you truly needed. His delays were never meant to deny you love, but to align you with the love that lasts. The waiting, the heartbreak, the healing, it all had to happen first. You were never being punished. You were being prepared. And when God finally says, now, you will know every tear, every lesson, every valley was worth it. Because this time, it won't just be love. It will be peace, purpose and promise, woven together by the hand of God himself. The wrong love was never wasted. It was the right lesson. When you look back, you will see that the wrong people did not ruin you. They revealed you. Every heartbreak was a chapter in your redemption. Every closed door was God guiding you to something greater. You were not being broken apart. You were being broken open. God let you love the wrong person first, so you could love the right one better. He allowed pain, so you could recognize peace, betrayal, so you could recognize loyalty, silence, so you could hear his voice. And when the right love finally finds you, it will find you whole.